So, how does the Traxxas Easy Start and one-way bearing work? So, this is all new to me because this is my very first nitro build. And I have a couple of 0.15 Pro engines, and I was really kind of interested in how the one-way bearing works. So, as far as I understand, this is how it works. This is the Traxxas Easy Start, and this is a pretty old one. It's pretty messed up, right? But when you apply a potential across these two electrodes on the Easy Start, it causes this to spin. So there's a motor here, and there's some mechanical components in here, and when you apply a sufficient voltage across here from the battery pack inside the Easy Start wand, if you have the newer one, or actually from the battery that you connect to your older Easy Start, when you apply that voltage, it causes this to spin right here, and you can see that there is a hex shape in there. And the Easy Start bearing also has that hex shape, and it fits perfectly inside. Now, this one-way bearing sits on the TRX engine on what I believe would be referred to as the crankshaft. I'm pretty sure this is referred to as the crankshaft or crankshaft extension. And we can see, watch the piston. You can see it moving inside the cylinder here. You can see that when I turn the one-way bearing on the crankshaft in one direction, it causes the piston to move up and down. But when I rotate it the opposite direction, the piston does not rotate up and down. So the one-way bearing only grabs that crankshaft moving in one direction. So when you want to go ahead and start your engine with the Easy Start, and this principle applies for the pull start as well, but when you want to start it with the Easy Start, you go ahead and apply the voltage across the terminals on the Easy Start motor. It causes this to turn in the direction such that the piston will move, and that provides that activation energy to start the catalyzed chemical reaction associated with the nitro fuel and the catalytic element inside the glow plug. And once that reaction starts, it just continues. And when that reaction continues, this is still connected, right? And it's still sitting inside this, right? But this doesn't move, and neither does the one-way bearing. Because if I go to the other side of the engine, I believe this would also be the crankshaft, but maybe it's the drive shaft. When I rotate it, we can see that the piston is moving up and down, right? But I'm holding the one-way bearing in place. It's not moving at all. Just as if it was sitting inside this, not moving. So basically the one-way bearing just allows the engine to get started by grabbing in one direction, allowing the activation energy from the battery to be supplied to the compression chemical system inside the cylinder. And once that gets going, this just sits, this just sits, and there may be a little bit of movement. I'm not 100% sure on that, but the engine is able to continue running without the one-way bearing moving. And somebody can correct me on that, but I have a master's degree in chemistry, and I've built a few cars over the years, and I absolutely could be wrong, but from what I've seen, it appears that that is exactly how the one-way bearing works and the Easy Start works. So hopefully that's helpful. And by the way, let me mention this. You know, I found out you can't test your one-way bearing to see if it's good by holding the inner component of the bearing and trying to rotate the outer part of the bearing. That simply doesn't work. It doesn't, if you're holding solid on the inner part, you can't rotate either way. Okay, so the only way to test it would be actually to put it on the shaft, see if turning it one way causes the piston to cycle, and then holding it in place, going to the other side of the engine, seeing if the engine is free to run without movement of the one-way bearing. And those are my current understandings. If I'm wrong, please let me know. Otherwise, I hope that was helpful.